So, a lot of you may remember my video from Christmas, this being a very Eden Christmas 12 Days of Stupidity. In that video, I covered someone named Eden, aka Kirby, who essentially gained notoriety via hypocrisy, yelling at kids, attempting to silence them, and farming sympathy by twisting the narrative in his favor in order to fool those who blindly followed him. Now, the reason why I point all of this out is to provide context to the situation at hand and to also give you a reference point for what you're about to see, because as you will see, the way these people are acting is very, very similar, especially considering the fact that some of the people I'm talking about were directly involved. Now, allow me to introduce who we're going to be talking about today. Meet Sasuko Winchester, a has-been hotel artist with a decently large following. Now, from sometime around January to February 2nd, I was in her Discord server. We were friends. Keywords being was and were, because shit hit the fan last month, and well, we're going to talk about that. So just sit back, relax, get yourself a nice bowl of cereal, and let's dive into it. Now, to fully grasp why all of this happened, it's necessary to bring up what kind of community Sasu was in. Now, as I mentioned before, Sasu is a has-been artist, meaning she's essentially part of one of the most hypersensitive communities on the internet as of late. And as all of you know from previous videos, has-been fans will tend to go batshit insane when subjected to the slightest criticism. So it's no surprise that someone like Sasu, a grown woman by the way, would take offense to being made fun of, for a spelling error no less. Now, those of you in my friend circle would know that I make this joke on a regular basis. I say it to people like Dorito, I say it to people like Chase, I say it in my Discord server every so often. I'm known to make that joke a lot. So if those people can find it funny, then why doesn't Sasu? Well, because she thinks that she is so above criticism that any joke poking fun at any slight error that she makes is worthy of the death sentence. And, well, in this case, the death sentence is trying to argue with a 16-year-old for almost an hour. And, well, as you can tell by the fact that I'm still alive, it failed. What I want to take note of is one part in the argument where Sasu points out, quote, "Only thing I tell you is to watch your attitude to others since they don't like it. Not everyone likes jokes. I know, but not with the back-talking no, I still get complaints." Now, you can tell in this conversation that I was asking questions as I should, because I wanted to know who I was making upset with my jokes. And Sasu said nothing. So, first, it goes from, "Oh, you're making me upset because I don't like being corrected," to, "Oh, you're making other people uncomfortable because not everyone likes your jokes." And then you go to, "I'm not gonna tell you who you're making uncomfortable," even though you kind of have an obligation to tell me who you're making uncomfortable, or at the very least direct them to come talk to me. Because if you don't do that, I'm not gonna know who the hell you're talking about. I'm not gonna know who I upset, meaning I have no way to rectify the situation at all. And this is a running theme with her and her community. They will walk in accusations to the door with no evidence, they will leave it there, and they will expect you to care. Well, that kind of tactic would work on someone as stupid as a has-been hotel fan. It wouldn't really work on a teenager known for not really giving a shit. And plus, she gives a really piss-poor excuse later on where she says that not everyone will come forward. Even though, as I mentioned before, you kind of have an obligation to come forward if you're really upset about what somebody says. Don't be dumping all your shit onto the owner so that I end up having to find out from her about your problems. But I digress. Maybe that's just a one-off thing. It's not that bad. But then we move on to why I got kicked. Now, on February the 2nd, I decided to start cracking some jokes in one of the chat rooms, and another person, Lazy, decided to join me in this tomfoolery. Next thing you know, a mod tells us to take it to general chat, and we both tell him to screw off. Leo, aka Lazy, says to suck a peepee, and I just tell the mod to go suck a titty. Now, one thing I want to make note of here is that there was no criticism levied at Lazy for what he said, but yet people wanted to come complain to me for what I said. Yeah, totally, very, very sound logic there. Oh, and guess who ended up coming to roll in? Queen Bitch herself. She decides to start a fuss because she decided that my statement towards the mod was just so rude and so disrespectful, and I needed to be punished. I needed to be taught a super lesson, and I didn't care. And I pointed out to her that she should be stressed out, meaning she shouldn't be engaging in stressful situations. So yeah, that's very interesting. So after some back and forth, which included these people trying to talk about how I was quote-unquote disrespecting people who stuck up for me, which is a point I will bring up later, I ended up getting booted, and I didn't really care, because I was at a trampoline park, I was hanging out with family, I was having a life. So, after getting back, I decided to just post a screenshot of what happened on Twitter and not think much of it. And you'd think that'd be the end of the story, regular people would just acknowledge that the post exists and move on. Maybe they leave a short response addressing it, and, everything would be under the bridge. But oh boy, what actually happened was both hilarious and somewhat depressing. So, I honestly didn't expect much to happen from the initial post. I expected that a lot of people wouldn't care, because I'm a 16-year-old with a small following, and these people are adults with a much larger following. Surely, they shouldn't care about what I have to say, right? Right after posting a screenshot on Twitter, one of my now former mutuals decides to comment this on the post. Nora, this is a bad take, you need to stop being rude, no one appreciates being talked to this way. It's fine to stick up for your friends, but it's not fine to be an asshole towards them, minor or not, this wasn't nice. And Sasuko has been doing a lot with this art thief. Talking about it on Discord and Twitter is the only way to get people's attention on the situation. So, let's bring up a few issues with this post. Number one, you acknowledged my savagery the previous day, in this very screenshot. So, why is it all haha funny up until I start firing back at you? Is it because you're the one getting laughed at? And also, if you're wondering what she means by the art thief, she's talking about Jody, a art thief who is notorious for taking people's art and, either reposting them or tracing them, which is pretty bad. However, talking about it on Discord and Twitter isn't the only way to deal with it. Number one, you could go with a DMCA report, as Spoken says that she has done in the past. Or, you could go my route, which is more productive and effective, which is just make a video on it and lay their sins bare for the world to see. Trust me, it gets much better results. So, after seeing this, people start clowning on her in the replies, which of course is natural. When my friends see people doing stupid shit, they make fun of those people. And after this, Anime Maiden decides to cope in my DMs and talk about how I was such a cool and nice person, but she was going to end up blocking me. And she tells me, I hope you grow up to learn to be more respectful towards people, especially those older than you. Okay, so first of all,
oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Number 2, you are not owed respect by default, whether you are older or not. And number 3, this is the only instance where I've publicly linked her back to this DM. The only reason people ever found out it was her before was because she chose to throw a fit over the DM being shown, which I will demonstrate later, but I will leave this post where I left the DM on the 3rd of February. I did not name her. Later that day, you know, I get home from school and I choose to take a nap. I was exhausted, so I decided to just get knocked the fuck out. And the next thing you know, a couple hours later, I wake up and I see my friends are in a VC on Discord. So naturally, I hop in just to see what's up, and they decided to go ahead and hop on alts to dunk on Sasu and her friends, because they were doing this and they were associated with me. They marked me as a target, which is dumbass logic. Just because they're my friends doesn't mean that I'm automatically responsible for what they do. It's the same exact logic that Kirby uses. He tries to use the logic that just because Spoken is friends with me and I just, comment on the drama post, it automatically means Spoken's responsible for what I do. In both cases, you are factually incorrect. The most I did in this instance was laugh in the voice call while these idiots did their shenanigans, and I'm not afraid to call my friends idiots because that's what they were doing. They were being idiots, and I have told them as such. Oh, and what is this lovely post here? Well, as a result of the actions of people who happen to be associated with me, Allie, the woman I defended on Christmas from Kirby's grooming allegations, decides to turn against me. Why? I have zero idea. Maybe she's just feeling more bipolar than usual. And if anything, maybe you should not be pointing the finger at me for quote-unquote disrespect, because number one, right, that meme has been butchered to death by the internet at this point. People just take random images and they turn them into no bitches. I've done it before. Here's an example. And you seem to have no problem. So it seems like it's a case of rules for thee, but not for me. And there's also the fact that you've been pretty much disrespecting me this entire, time. During the entire drama. You guys disrespected me. And now you want to cry bitter tears because it's coming back to bite you in the ass. Nice fucking loyalty there, Allie. Now, there was another person who was caught up in this mess, but I'm not going to mention them by name. And the reason why is because they went to me personally and they apologized for how they acted. They acknowledged that they were being stupid and that they were being misled. And they decided to redact their statement. And I forgave them for it. The reason why is because they accepted responsibility for being dumb and did not try to backpedal after it was too late. And put a pin in that last statement because you're about to see that in a little bit. For now, we're going to take a second to look at what could possibly be dumber than being mad over a meme. And the answer to that is getting mad on Curious Cat because Nora bad. So someone leaves a Curious Cat ask in Anime Maiden's Curious Cat. And here's her response. I was debating whether or not to reply to this since I said I was done with it all yesterday. The accounts calling for mass reports from what I've seen are because of the harassment people were receiving on Twitter and the one friend of Nora's that stole and memed Sasuko's art. And clearly the consequences he's faced isn't enough for him to take accountability for his actions. He was the one who brought it to Twitter first with a screenshot from the server and then doubled down by posting a screenshot of my DM to him and insulting me. And then his friends go on to harass everyone on Twitter because they don't see Nora as in the wrong at all. I get it. He's 16, a minor, a brat, whatever. In 2 years, he'll be 18 and probably still acting like this. But let's go ahead and continue making the excuse of him acting this way towards people and the fact that he's a minor and minors do stupid shit. Okay. So allow me to point this out. Number one, what consequences are you referring to? Are you referring to the multiple days you spent harassing me on Twitter and trying to get me deplatformed? Because that's not a consequence. That's you retaliating for being called out. And number two, no one could identify that it was you in that screenshot of the DM. As I stated before, the link to you was of your own accord because you couldn't hold back from seething on Twitter. And number three, I talk shit to my friends all the time. We make jokes towards each other and there's zero issue. Alright? So, if they have no issue, then clearly you shouldn't have no issue, especially because you're all adults. And by the way, you stopped being my friends when you chose to keep bitching about it instead of taking it on the chin and moving on. And after I mocked Anime Maiden on Twitter using a screenshot, I got some lovely DMs from her soon after. So, here's what she says. Look, I'm sorry for ever making those tweets in the first place. I'm sorry for ever getting involved. I have deleted those tweets in the CC answer. Can you please remove your tweets about me? And here's what I told her. I'm going to sum it up right here. I'm going to TLDR it for you people. I essentially told her that if she had apologized earlier, there would be no issue. I would have accepted it. But the fact of the matter is, she actively participated in the situation and is now trying to backpedal. And as much as I would want to take the tweets down, I'm not going to, because they're a public archive of the situation and I have a right to keep them up. And then she decides to go on a cope spree in my DMs. She talks about how, she was in a financially difficult situation and all that, which, I expressed my sympathy for her, but I straight up told her that it wasn't my problem. It was irrelevant to the conversation, and that if she didn't want to get involved, if she didn't want things to go this far, then, maybe she should have just stayed in her fucking lane and not attacked the literal teenager when she's in her late 20s. And then she tried to pretend that she wasn't involved in the situation, but I demonstrated that I wasn't stupid enough to believe that because, surprise, surprise, the person who talks about idiots on the internet keeps receipts. So, after I demonstrated that I had receipts, she then mentioned bringing up her financial situation, which was Tube's fault, because Tube's a fucking idiot. And I told her that she shouldn't bring up financial situations, especially because she's friends with me, and I am very open about my shitty financial decisions. So, if that wasn't bad enough, then maybe we can look to the worst part of this situation. The fact that these people dragged in people who weren't even involved and basically encouraged them to disassociate with me. That's pretty fucked up. So, let's say you still don't understand the main issue at hand here. Well, allow me to lay it all out for you. Number 1, Sasuko got mad at a 16-year-old for making dumb jokes, being a dumb teenager, and not giving a damn when she chose to whine about a trivial issue. Number 2, after being called out for her hypersensitivity, she then proceeded to sit back and cry bitter tears for sympathy while her community came out of the woodwork to gang up on a 16-year-old. And when the friends of said 16-year-old chose to clap back as a reaction to seeing the bullshit Sasuko was letting slide, all of a sudden, she and her community tried to demonize and deplatform said 16-year-old. And number 3, none of them saw the goddamn optics of the situation. None of them thought to themselves that maybe they shouldn't be pulling this shit. God forbid the teenager is actually able to process the fact that these people are attacking him and fights back. None of them thought it'd be a good idea to drag non-participants into this mess and get them to disassociate with me by being so fucking dishonest about the situation and just walking an accusation to the door and leaving it there. They didn't think it'd be a bad idea to, go onto the minor's account and wish for them to end up broke and alone. Lord Christ in a fucking gravy boat. You people should not have a platform if you think this behavior is acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And the most hypocritical part about this whole thing is that you had zero issues when I called out Kirby for the same actions. Just a couple months ago, Sasuko, you were in the hidden room when I was saying shit about Kirby. And now you have the audacity to chastise me for making fun of you, despite the fact that it was to a much lesser degree. There's a thing that you should learn when it comes to situations like this. It's consistency. If you're fine with making fun of somebody you don't like all you want, you should be able to handle it when someone pokes fun at you. Because if you can't, then you don't deserve your platform, because that's how the internet is going to function. It's going to be people making fun of each other, and you better be able to take the heat if you're going to last even a second around people like me. You have systematically proven yourself to be just as bad, if not worse, than Kirby. And when I say you, I mean you and your goddamn friends. You are all professional victims who will always laugh at the misfortune of others, but you will never laugh at your own. Congratulations.